Okay, hello everybody. You should have just finished watching the video on typography, that short video, and it showed you some type categories and also some ways to play with type. For example, to spread letters apart or to squish them together. And we're going to talk more about that as we go along. But for today, I just want to talk about the categories real quick. So let's take a look. There are different ways to categorize fonts or typefaces that we have, but I have categorized these ones here on the screen in front of you according to the 8 categories that InDesign and Illustrator use. And if you notice, I have Illustrator closed right now and InDesign is open. That's the ID. So we're using a new program here, and you're going to be using this one as well today. So InDesign is very similar to Illustrator. We'll get into a few differences in a minute. But first, let's go through the 8 categories real quickly. And this is how Illustrator categorizes all their typefaces. So if you go to the filters, you'll see there are 8 classifications there. And I've put them in a very specific order for you today because these are the most popular. So the first one is a serif font. And a serif is, let me get a color on here real quick. A serif are these little things that hang off of letters. So if you take a look at the edges of the letters, you'll see that they all have these little hangy-dangy things hanging off of them, and those are called serifs. And so that's what a serif font is it has serifs there. There's another category in Illustrator and InDesign that has slab serif fonts, and there are very few of those. You'll notice the category is much smaller, but it just means that those serifs, those little things hanging off the edge, are super duper thick and they're horizontal. Whereas these might have a slight slant to them. If you look at them, they have a slight slant to them. These ones in the slab serif category will be nice and flat and really thick. Then if you go down to the next row, you'll see that there are sans serif fonts. So we have the serif fonts and the sans serif fonts. And sans serif, sans literally means without. So there are no serifs. And these are all of your fonts that look nice and neat and tidy with nothing extra hanging off. And we'll talk about when we use these 2 fonts coming up when I'm back in class. But so those are sans serif without fonts. Then InDesign also has a mono category. I'm not really concerned about that, and I won't test you on it. What it means is that it will take the exact same, let me use a box to show you. Let's see. It will take the exact same width. Let's make that sucker pink. But it'll take the exact same width and make every single letter fit into that box. And so that's called mono. It has the same spaces in between the letters, so the exact same spaces between the letters, and also the same spaces as the letters. And so that's called mono, but not as big a deal as serif and sans serif. Then the next big category is script, and that looks like cursive writing. And so usually those letters will all be connected together. An offshoot of script, which I actually usually put into the script category when I'm talking about it, but handwritten. And it just means that it looks like it's been written or made by hand. It looks like something somebody would have scribbled down and then put into a computer program. Then we have the last 2 categories, and this is another really popular one, the decorative category. And decorative just means that they did something cool with the font, and it happens to every single one. So if I go to this decorative category, it means every single one here has bubble letters. Or oops, it's too big for you to see. Sorry, let me see. Okay, so they have bubble letters. Okay, or in the one that I chose, they have the lines like it's a speed demon or something. Then another category is black letter. I usually put the black letter ones into decorative category because they do the same thing to each letter. So black letter is more like that kind of Chicago, Chicano, if you're familiar with this type of style for graffiti often, and for Chicano movement letters, or detailing on vehicles will often use black letter, is pretty popular. But I usually just combine it into the decorative category, but it can stand alone as well. So the most important categories will be serif, have those little things hanging off. Sans serif, they do not have anything hanging off. Script, that looks handwritten or like cursive. And then decorative, that just does anything fun. So those are the most popular ones, but all 8 of these are important. So what you're going to do today is you're going to open InDesign, which again is the ID, not the AI. And just like with Illustrator, you're going to hit create file or new file, whatever you need to do there. And instead of artboards, we're going to get pages now, because these are pages, just like paper instead of artboards, because this is more for layout and posters, things like that. So print, you're going to select print and letter size, and we're going to title it Name Practice. And once you title it Name Practice, we're going to need, let's do 2 pages. Okay, and we don't want them facing. I'll explain that later. So 2 pages, and then say create. And it should create 2 pages on top of one another. Now, as soon as you open this, go up to the top like we did with Illustrator and choose Essentials Classic there, because it'll give you the best menus across the top. And just like with Illustrator, you can go up to Window and grab panels that you want to open on the side. So I can open up panels along the side just like I did in Illustrator. And you'll see that you have some panels here. You'll notice that your swatches are very different from the swatches in Illustrator, and I'll talk about that when we get back. But today we're really just going to be working with the text tool. So just like I did with my other document, I want you to write your name and make it about, I don't know, with the drop down menu at the top, make it about 72 points. Now, if you're typing and you suddenly can't see your name, it just means your text box is too small. So just make your text box bigger. And then holding the Option key, you can copy and make 10 different copies of your name. So put 10 different copies of your name, and then you're going to play around with everything across the top. So you can change the fonts, you can change the sizes, you can play with all of these buttons along the top. Some they do different things, so I can capitalize everything. I can have just I can have everything capitalized, but the first one's bigger than the others. I can make everything lowercase if I want to. Oops, I didn't select it all. Make it all lowercase if I want to. I can make a superscript or a subscript. I can strike through a word or underline a word. And then I can, oops, just kidding. You can stretch words, and I think I showed you this the other day, but you can stretch them out so that they're super tall. I'm going to go back to normal, which would be what, 100 maybe? All right, back to normal. Or I can stretch them out widthwise, and when I let go, you'll see that it's stretching it out. Or I can make it slanted. Okay, so you can play with it however you'd like. You can use the colors. So see where I am down here with the tools. You can use the colors to make the inside one color and the outside a different color. The stroke, just like we did with our graphics, the fill and the stroke. You can type on a path where you draw a path and you go and right click on your text tool and type on a path, just like we did in Illustrator. And you notice the path disappears, but it allows me to type on that path there. And then I want you to play with all of these different options. Like maybe I make a copy of this and I right click on it and I'm going to transform it. Where is it here? Transform, and I can flip it vertically, flip it horizontally. I can rotate it. You can put it in different places so that you're just playing around. So I could, I don't know, try all kinds of different effects. And then I think on type, let's see, we're on a different program now, so it's a little different. Where are all of our effects? Type effects. You can create drop shadows and inner shadows and outer glows and stuff. So you can go through there and click your preview and you can see different options there. So play with that, play around with it and see what you can come up with. And if you notice on the lesson plan, ¿dónde está? Déjame ver. I have some examples for you. And you can try and create some of these or stretch and do other things. I want you to come up with as many creative samples as possible. So you're going to have 10 copies of your name, and I want you to do something completely different with each one. And you can stretch them out onto the next piece of paper. You can add a piece of paper right here if you need another piece of paper there. But I want you to play with it, and better if you write your first and last name, you'll have more letters to mess with. But I just put my first name right here for illustration purposes. But just know that when you double click and highlight it, that's when you're changing the text properties. And when you have your selection arrow, that's when you're moving things or copying and pasting or transforming, reflecting, all of those different things. Okay, so be aware of that. That's the selection tool versus when I have my text selected. I can change all the fonts and sizes and whatnot. So play around with that. I do not want 10 copies of your name where you just chose 10 different fonts. I will not accept that. So spend some time playing around and really creating what we call some type treatments. A treatment means that you've altered text to do something fun with it in some fun way. So this will get you ready to start working on your decorative quote. And this is what I want you to work on for the remainder of today. You can take a screenshot of them and put them on your typography page in your on your website for today. All right, that's it. Thanks.